Um, are you using, I don't know if I can ask this, are you using your corporate Zoom account to do all this?
Yes.
Okay, I saw that in your thing.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Long Form Conversations, the podcast where we talk about long form improv. I'm your host, David Luong, and today we are joined by a guest that's I've seen come up through the ranks over the years. He is a very talented improviser, actor, and writer. This is Sam D.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you. How's your day going so far?
Pretty good. Just got off work and ran over here.
You work from home?
Yeah.
It's nice, right?
My setup is not this good. I'm like looking at everything, trying to think like, what can I steal? What are the elements that I can like put into my home?
Oh, like in terms of like designing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you a computer kid growing up?
I was a ham radio kid.
Okay.
I built and like broke down a lot of ham radios, but never computers.
I wasn't like big into computers, but my brother is, and he always gave me his hand-me-downs, which is why Sam's probably remarking on like my wireless keyboards, my monitor stands, my what's it called? The docks, like the wires.
Yeah, but even just like the lighting and like where you have your desk set up and where you have your bathroom, like all that. Like
that's just directly behind Sam is the TV. So I sit. This is my desk what I use for work. Sometimes don't tell anybody. I will just watch TV.
No, I want to do that for my meetings.
Yeah, right.
Too.
So that's what you want to do. You want to get like it's situated to the point where
exactly.
You have your monitor on one angle and your TV on your next angle.
Yeah, especially for like meetings where I'm not presenting anything. I just want to be able to watch TV.
So like sit in, yeah.
Do you think working from home is like helps with like being able to do improv and acting and writing?
Yeah, absolutely. Orange County, even though it's like an hour away, like I think most people, when you get that first office job, you get that same feeling where it's like you work all day long, you get off at like 5, and like all you want to do is like relax.
Right.
You want to get a drink, get some food, take a nap. So even though I was doing improv in Orange County, it was hard enough to be like, I gotta go to class or I gotta go to a performance tonight, or practice group or whatever. Did you notice a difference, like jumping from like going into the office to working from home?
Yeah, I think like I have more time to like do like writing stuff. I have also noticed that I'm like turning down more auditions just because I don't want, like, I'm used to not driving around as much.
Oh wow.
So I'm like, I don't want to go all the way to mid city when really it's just like a 20-minute drive. Yeah, I
kind of had the opposite thing. I've come to love driving in LA more because obviously, in the past, people always complain about traffic, and I always say traffic is kind of getting to normal levels. But because I don't drive around for work or for many other things, like it's really just improv. So it's like somebody wants to have a lunch at the West Side, and normally in the past I'd have been like, no, But now I'm just like, you know what? It's a nice Saturday afternoon. I know it's gonna be a 45-minute slog, but it's like I don't really get to be in the car that often. Let me just put on a podcast and get there. So like people, I'm down to drive. If you want me to come out to dinner or a show, like do you know the Drunk Theater guys?
Yeah, in Santa Monica.
Yeah, like they live in the West Side, and like I kind of love going to hang out with them on that side just because it changes the pace.
Yeah.
I feel like out here people go to like the same 5 bars, same like 6 restaurants and everything.
Yeah.
So when they're like, hey, we're gonna go eat lunch at this place, I was like, yeah, whatever, let's just do it,
Yeah, I definitely feel that.
By the way, caught that Whistling Prince show, the second one, the White Lotus show. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That was such a great show, man.
Thank you so much, dude. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, that was 2 Wednesdays ago, right?
That sounds about right. 2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I will say this. You guys got, because it started late, I feel like you guys got the short end of the stick on that night because I was ready for more, baby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's always a struggle because it's we're essentially doing narrative improv, and we're trying to stick to playing the same characters for about 40 minutes, and it is like so hard to try and extend it, and we want to do like an hour-long show, but it's kind of scary,
Oh, you found that the hour was too long?
I felt like we could have gone a little bit longer, but it's more like, did we have enough stuff? Because you want to like leave the audience wanting more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, Sam and his team, Whistling Prince, has a show. They've done it 2 times now at the UCB Theater, but it's a White Lotus inspired improv. So they do questions, interviews about people's vacation stories, and then you turn that into, you weave it all together, just like how White Lotus is like woven together. But that's a form that you guys already do, right?
So we started off doing a small town at We Improv, which is where we met. And those were like 15-minute sets. And then I think one day we were hanging out and we kind of realized like a lot of our sets do feel a little bit like an episode of White Lotus. And that kind of just like translated naturally, you know.
And being so narrative focused, it's funny, I would have thought the opposite. I would say, because at We you get 15 minutes like tops, and most indie sets you get 15 minutes tops. And I've always loved I've always loved narrative improv, but I always felt that you can never achieve that in the indie space, because 15 minutes is barely enough to tell a Rugrats episode, let alone a story that you're making up as you go along.
Yeah, exactly. We had a lot of like really long practices, like 3-hour long practices, just to try and knock down a 30-minute narrative set that felt satisfying. To be honest, I think we could still use some work maybe on the ends to make like just like White Lotus, we have a death in the set always, and sometimes the death can feel a little bit forced. It's like, oh no, the clock is it's almost 11 p.m. We should go and kill somebody in our set.
Yeah. It's just end up like, hey, I'm the pool boy. I drank all the chlorine. Blah.
Yeah, there are a lot of sets like that in practice.
So your intention was the 30 minutes then?
Maybe like 30 minutes of improv, but then also like 15 to 20 minutes of like audience interview and like riffing off the top.
Got it. Okay, so in that case, it probably did end on time. I guess for me, I just I'm used to like a 40-minute like narrative, right, in an episode of television,
Yeah, I mean, if we can get to 40 or 50 and make it feel good, that would be the dream.
Sure. Yeah. But in any case, both shows I was lucky enough to check out, and they were both great, man.
Thanks so much, dude. Thanks for coming again.
Yeah,
seriously.
Oh, you don't have to thank me for showing up for improv. You should have to thank anybody for showing up for improv. You're welcome. You should say you're welcome for a good show.
Yeah, actually, I feel like like when I'm looking around the audience for like random shows, I feel like you're one of the most consistent, like he's always in the audience people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need, maybe I'll throw that as my hot take later, but like you got to watch improv. You got to love this stuff. If you don't love it, it's like imagine like a theater actor not seeing plays, or a film actor not watching movies. I would say, oh, you're probably really bad at your craft.
Sure.
So you have to be able to like watch what people are doing to know it and like it, But I don't know. I don't want to go into that. Maybe, yeah, it's cost prohibitive. It's not really cost prohibitive, but whatever.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you get on performer standby now, right?
Sure. But I mean, in the past, and I do have a good job where I can pay for the $5-10 tickets. Right. I don't think that should be the barrier for you to see shows. Not when theater is like, $60 a ticket, not when movies are like $25 a ticket, Right. In any case, whatever you're doing, and television is free, I guess, but like you should be absorbing as much as you can, however you can, if you're going to get it from movies, theater, television, or improv. I think, to me, at least, I think improv is the easiest, the cheapest. Heck, you got the Clubhouse, which is free. So I take it back. Yeah. Now I'm going to go hard. You need to be watching improv, and you need to be going to these free shows.
Like, yes, you should be watching improv, but I think you should also know if like this is good improv or bad improv. And if you're watching really bad improv and you think it's good, then you're kind of like forcing yourself down a dark path. That's
actually a really good point. Like in terms of taste, I agree. Like, if you're just watching, HBO Max's The Idol, and you're like, this is what I want to be this type of writer. Then yeah, you're probably gonna be doomed.
Wait, is The Idol bad? I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it's like people are saying it's like one of the worst shows that HBO's done in like decades.
I've only seen the memes, so
yeah. Well, I mean, and I think it's such a fall from grace from like Succession and Barry, but yeah, like your taste. I think taste is more important than anything, and I guess that's part of I guess watching shows, good and bad, as much as you can, because you do end up having like a wider spectrum of like what is something that you enjoy, what makes you laugh, or what is something that doesn't, inspire you. Like some of the best improv scenes I've ever seen have been like dramatic ones, where it's like they kind of forget that they're doing comedy, forget that there's like a joke, and they just kind of lean into and it's like 4 or 5 minutes of just serious stuff. But I'm just like, yeah, but this counts as matters. Now, would I do 4 minutes of it? No, but like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to say in my next set, I may want to do 30 seconds of like, of like really grounded, dramatic, like emotionally invested stuff. And then I might peel back, but that's my taste. And that's me forming my sensibility.
Yeah. Dramatic improv is my favorite type of improv, I think, hands down.
Have you ever seen improv outside of LA? Or like when you travel? Because I know you're not from LA.
Yeah. Let's see. I've seen UCB in New York, I guess. I've seen some like IO and Second City stuff when I was in Chicago visiting. And then I used to do improv in North Carolina, and we would do a festival every year. And so those would be acts from across the country. I could see that.
I just realized this is probably a better topic to dive into later on.
Yeah.
So we'll put that on pause.
Okay.
But yeah, like even that I would just say is good. If you can like check out improv elsewhere, because it's completely different. Like so much of it's influenced by like who's running the scene and who's funny and what shows they're seeing. But like if you go to like, you know, some other town, it's like they don't know anybody in LA. They don't care about what's going on in LA. So their idea of improv and what they're doing is completely different. And I like that. It's like regional style, you know?
Right. Like East Coast, West Coast hip hop or something, or like
even more so. Even I would say it's like music, you know, it's just like they got that Nashville sound, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, awesome, man. Hopefully you hear back soon about White Lotus, right?
Yeah, we don't know if we have a run yet, but we're fingers crossed. We're feeling pretty good about it.
Awesome. All right, great. Well, let's go ahead and jump into our first topic now. I'm really excited to talk to you about this because coming up, you were someone that I had seen. You were like one of the few other Asian improvisers in the community, and then you were also on Mess Hall. When was that? 2018.
Yeah, fall of 2018, I think.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, okay, you know. So I can't wait to dive into this, man. Let's talk. Let's go ahead and jump into our first segment, which is Improvster Syndrome. This is your chance to tell us about your improv journey, the highs, the lows, and everything that got you to where you are now.
Okay. I started doing improv back in 2015, I think. This was I was in North Carolina for grad school. I was actually doing stand-up at the time, and I felt like so stiff on stage. Someone was like, you should take an improv class. So I started doing that. And then there was this theater in North Carolina. It's closed now, but it was in Chapel Hill. And they kind of had like the same UCB structure of like Herald Night, weekend teams, kind of like a mess hall team equivalent. So I did the program there and then auditioned, got on their equivalent of a mess hall team and kind of just got hooked and stopped doing stand-up.
Interesting. So this was to like just serve your like confidence on stage as a stand-up?
Yeah, because like I feel like stand-up stage time is like so hard to come by. And the community can be a little icky sometimes. This is like this is probably like 2015, 2016. Right as like Trump and like Joe Rogan is like getting really popular, and the stand-up scene is kind of getting filled with people kind of like that.
It was like also around the time of like Louis and Aziz, right?
Right. So like I was just feeling like I wasn't really meeting anybody in the stand-up community that I really clicked with like creatively. But then, you know, I was meeting all these improv people who were really nice people, and I just vibed with them better.
Well, what made you want to get into stand-up?
I've always liked writing comedy and I've done that, but like was always a little too nervous to perform it. And I think stand-up is like the barrier to entry is pretty low. I feel like every town I started doing stand-up in Mississippi in like a small college town, and it's like in a small college town like that, there aren't a ton of opportunities to do comedy outside of stand-up at an open mic. So it's just very easy and quick to get to.
I've always been astounded by that because I do feel that like in terms of like entry level comedy, the two really are improv and stand-up. I feel like there are people that are either your city has an improv scene and somebody tells you to like check it out, or you read Bossy Pants or Yes Please, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'll try improv out. But if you don't have those resources, if you don't have an improv scene, or if you don't read those books, then of course all you know and all you see is like, oh yeah, stand up. what's the lowest cost of entry? It's you and talking. I
Right.
can stand up and I can talk.
Yeah, and that was really the case in Mississippi. Like, no, not really any improv. There was a monthly open mic at a bar, and I was like writing all summer long, and then eventually worked up the courage to do that open mic, and like nearly had a panic attack before walking on stage, but really glad that I ended up doing it.
You wrote your material for a month?
It was I just graduated college, and it was like the summer where I'm like still in my college town about to move, and just like writing a lot, not really planning on performing it, but just like writing it almost as like a diary or like a therapeutic type of
Yeah.
thing. And then read it to some friends, and they were like, this is pretty good, you should try putting this up somewhere. And then I think part of the thing that helped was like I knew I was leaving in like a month, so it's like even if I bomb, I'm literally leaving this town.
Yeah.
So that helped a lot.
This was senior year?
Like senior year had already finished, and I was going to start grad school in the fall, and I wasn't moving until August.
Got it.
So it's that like weird summer in between.
Okay. So you mentioned that you got on there like mess hall. How long were you in that system for? Like how many like their classes, how many levels did they have?
It's crazy how similar it is to UCB. I'm pretty sure they tried to copy UCB.
Oh, got it.
So like 4 levels, finished that in 6 months. They had a yearly improv audition, auditioned, and then got on the mess hall equivalent.
And it's all long form, it's all game based.
Yeah, they try to teach game. It's very hard to teach game, I feel like, outside of New York and LA, because you don't have a bunch of examples to point to. Kind of like your point about like having to watch improv. You can kind of only rely on your teachers talking about it and then watching your teachers. And when there's only one theater in town and there's no clubhouse, it's like you can really only watch like one show a night, or like one set a night.
So stand up was in Mississippi. You back home. Chapel Hill was improv.
Mississippi is home, and then Chapel Hill or Durham area was grad school.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah. Oh wow. So I'm sorry, was this college or is this high school that you mentioned?
I went to high school in Mississippi and then went to college in Mississippi. And then after senior year of college, that's when I started doing stand-up.
Got it. Okay, cool. But when you were in college undergrad, was there any?
There was a short form improv team. I didn't want to join.
Yeah.
Honestly, my college undergrad experience was like, I gotta do well in school so I can get the hell out of Mississippi. Like as an Asian guy in a small college town in Mississippi, it's like very clear, like, hey, you need to get out of here, like fast.
Yeah. Okay. So in UNC Chapel Hill, you're going to grad school concurrently with improv?
Yeah, so I was going to grad school at Duke, and I tried to join the Duke.
Why did I say UNC Chapel Hill? I don't even think that's a normal thing to assume, right?
No. So yeah. Like Duke is in Durham, and it's like a 10-15 minute drive away from Chapel Hill, which is where UNC is.
Okay.
And I was doing I was in a PhD program at Duke, and I tried to join the undergrad improv team, and it was very clearly an undergrad thing. And I didn't want to be like a weird older guy, even though I was 21 and they were like 20.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't want to join the undergrad improv team. So I found this theater in Chapel Hill that was like a mix of people in their 20s and 30s, and started there.
So how well did you take to it?
I think I was able to take to improv very quickly because I didn't care about it. I really cared about stand-up, and I really cared about writing good stand-up. And so improv was kind of like this side, like cross-training thing. And I think having that kind of like a little bit of detached carelessness can really help you blossom in something. Yeah.
And did you think that like having done so much writing and so much stand-up, do you think that like that was something that like you could lean on, where it's just like I can come with a fun punchline, or I can like, write my way out of this argument or whatever?
Yeah, for the first like 2 or 3 years of improv, I was like the button guy.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe even now to a certain extent, I'm like the button guy. I get like one line in, but that's the edit.
Yeah, but like cause like you can wait and you can totally assess what's going on. You're like, well, if there's a punchline, I just gotta wait for a lull and then punchline.
Yeah, exactly.
Edit.
I have noticed that like after I moved to LA and started doing UCB, and I started caring about improv so much, like weirdly enough, I felt like my stand-up getting better when I would occasionally do stand-up, just because I did start caring about stand-up so much, and I started caring about improv, and just having that balance is so nice.
Yeah, maybe taking the stakes out of both of them.
Yeah,
Maybe
totally.
like you're like, oh, this improv thing doesn't work out, still got stand up, or hey, this improv stand up thing doesn't work out, I still do stand up. So wow, 4 months, 4 classes, auditioned right away, or did you do
Um,
some like practice groups or?
there wasn't really like I had like an indie team. The size of the community was maybe like 100 to 200 people.
Mhm.
Pretty much like everyone got on a team. It's just kind of like, are they going to put you on the short form team or the long form team or the Herald team? So there was like a little bit of a power dynamic. Um, I think the weirdest thing was just like moving to LA and doing the UCB stuff and realizing how much that theater in North Carolina had like copied the structure.
Yeah.
And I feel like that almost helped me a ton when I moved out here.
So I'm guessing you finished grad school. How long is grad school? 2 years? 3 years?
I did what's called mastering out. So I was in a PhD program, and then halfway through I decided this is not for me. So I was like, can I just leave with
Let
the
me get my
master's?
master's instead of my.
Yeah. So 2.5 years for me.
So 2.5. That means you were doing 2.5 years of improv here, I'm guessing, or did you stop halfway through? Or
No, it was about 2.5 years of improv in North Carolina before moving out to LA.
so what was that decision like? Well, obviously you get your master's.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you're maybe applying for jobs, or maybe you're like move back to Mississippi or go to another city or stay in North Carolina.
Moving back to Mississippi was not an option for me.
Yeah.
At that time, I had auditioned a couple more times at that theater, and then got put on a Herald team, and I got put on a weekend team. And at that point, I was like talking to people, asking them about like who are some other people from this theater who like went on to New York and LA to do this improv thing. And slowly, I was like, maybe I should give this a shot.
So then you made the decision to move out to LA.
Yeah, it was New York, Chicago, or LA, and that's where I was.
So this was an improv field move, or was it a career field move?
Both. I mean, part of it was like I realized I didn't want to be an academic, and like I didn't want a PhD.
Sure. Yeah. Move out to LA. Was UCB the intent? Was there a second city or groundlings in your heart?
UCB was the intent. I tried a groundlings class after moving out to LA, did not love it. And then Second City Hollywood, I was on a team there briefly, auditioning on a team, but it was mainly UCB, partly because the structure and the organization was so familiar with what I was doing in North Carolina.
Yeah. And when you moved out here, did you know anybody? Did you have any other like alums from your Chapel Hill days?
There was a guy who I moved out here like maybe a couple of months before me, just coincidentally. And then just some like people who like an old high school friend or something like that, but no one that I was like really close with.
Okay. So what were those first couple of days at UCB like?
Really like exciting, but also kind of intense. I started like my first one-on-one class before I even had like a car or a lease for like an apartment. I was like living.
You don't have a car in North Carolina? Is that walkable?
No. I was getting my car shipped out.
Oh, I got it. So first
like,
thing you did when you flew out here
was like make sure I get in a one-on-one class.
Well, those classes fill up quick. You got to get it.
Exactly. Back then, yeah. And I was living in an Airbnb, and then going to do my one-on-one class.
Yeah. What's this like? You already done a Herald team, and then now you're taking one-on-one, and people are figuring out yes and.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had a little bit of an ego, but I think I got humbled very quickly because I was like seeing all this improv and realizing, oh, I have so much room to grow.
Yeah, and that was from like the teachers doing, or I guess you're watching Herald shows. You're watching weekend teams.
Yeah, I was watching a lot of weekend teams. There was this one show called This Show Is Not Funny.
I love that show.
Oh my God. That's like hands down my favorite improv show of all time.
Yeah, it was Casey Faye, Mary Holland, and Luca, what's his last name?
Jones, I think.
Luca Jones, yeah.
And
just the dramatic stuff, yeah, which is a degree that you usually don't get to see in improv.
Never. And then you never get to see two-person scenes that last that long and have that type of like emotional depth and connection. And the thing that like always impressed me is that they would always be able to make me forget that I'm at a comedy show and like make me kind of lose my expectation for a laugh. And then once you lose that, that's when you laugh the hardest.
Yeah. So how quickly did it take you to get through the UCB coursework?
Like 2 years, year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Slow down there, huh, bud?
Slowed down. I really didn't love my 201 experience. And
Oh, no one does that. I feel like that's usually the breaking point for a lot of students.
yeah. Well, especially because in my 201 class, there were a lot of people who would talk back. Because it is like 201 is such a talky class, right? You're like talking through these ideas, but there would be so many people who just wouldn't take a note and would like kind of talk back to the teacher. And so it just made it so slow. And I needed a break for a while.
Right. So what did you do then?
Tried to learn how to surf.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just LA stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So yeah, I guess as a student, as someone who's taking improv, that's especially since you moved here for LA, that must have been a really like existential crisis for like, man, I'm here to do this, but I don't really know if I like this or if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wasn't meeting anybody who like was obsessed with it as much as I was, and like, so I wasn't able to form an indie team until really like 401.
Yeah, isn't that wild to say that like LA and especially UCB, this is the place where the people that are the most obsessed about improv, I would argue.
Uh-huh.
And I had the same experience. It's like it's really hard to find people that like really want to do this. Like if you watch like a this show is not funny, you're like, I want to do that, and then you look around, does anybody else want to do that? And like it's crickets, you know.
Mm-hmm. Or like there are people who are like, yeah, let's do it, and then they never reply in the group thread.
Yeah, so I think it takes a lot of sifting through to get to like find the people that are like as dedicated as you might be.
Yeah, for sure.
So how was it finishing up?
By the end of 401, I'd like finally met a crew of people who I kind of clicked with, and then we had an indie team. We're doing the clubhouse circuit. We're talking about auditioning, and so all of a sudden it felt familiar again and kind of felt like what I came out here for.
Interesting. So what aspect of it, like other than auditioning, like what is it about like that group and like the community that you found in Chapel Hill that like, you know, makes you feel comfortable and safe?
It's like the talking after shows and like hanging after shows and being like, what did I like about this? What did I not like about this? Like people who are like really thinking about what they've just done critically. I think I was craving that.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, so that post 401, you are doing practice groups. You are like thinking about auditioning. How does that build up to your first mess? Like, what does that like grind look like? Or feel like might have been more helpful.
Yeah, I think back then, so this is like summer 2018. I wasn't as familiar with like all the opportunities to practice for Herald auditions, like boot camp and all these workshops. There weren't as many workshops back then. And so it was just a lot of like practice groups. I was so excited to get up an audition because I was like, finally, like it's been 2 years since I auditioned for an improv team, really.
And did you think because you had done it before to such success, you're like gonna nail it?
No, not at all. I went in specifically, I was like, let's not get ahead of myself. Don't let myself get a big ego. All I want is a callback. If I get a callback, it'll be a win. And I think having that mentality really helped. I went in kind of nervous for the callback, kind of nervous for the first round, got the callback, and then was nervous for the callback. But other than that, it went pretty well.
And is that the year you got on Mess Hall or?
Yeah. The my first audition I got on Mess Hall.
Okay. What was that experience like?
Very like intimidating at first. Ton of imposter syndrome, especially because it's like I feel like with all of these like Herald audition processes, it's like even if you get on, if you're a sane and reasonable person, you realize that there are other people who could have taken your spot easily. So it's like a lot of survivor's guilt, especially because like it was my first time and like other people have been really trying for a long time. So I feel like I spent 6 months just trying to get over that.
Yeah. And that was back when they had 6 mess hall teams, right?
Right.
So did you have at this point, since you've been through and you've been here for a while now, do you have any like friends that you could commiserate with, or any peers that were like, oh hey, what team are you on?
It was called Roxbury.
Like, I'm on Roxbury, you're on, uh, Flush Head or whatever. Just
Um,
making up a dumb
yeah,
improv
no,
name.
that's wait, Flushhead. Is
Yeah,
that what you
Flush
said?
Head.
Flushhead. Oh, write that down,
Yeah, that's a good one.
dude.
I'm write that one down.
Not really. Weirdly enough, I think like I was so panicked about mess hall and like the whole like because I didn't really feel like I had a lot of friends in the community at that point.
Mhm.
And I was like so panicked about the entire experience. I
Yeah.
didn't really like meet people or like feel comfortable around people.
Yeah, no, it's tough, and I'm lucky. I feel very blessed to have done it when I've done it, because I think if I had gotten it sooner, I would have been so lonely. I think it's talking about like how lonely and soulless it could be. To be
Mhm.
doing improv with no friends is probably worse than commercial auditioning by yourself in your in your room.
Yeah. And I think pre-pandemic there were a lot more like power dynamics and hierarchies.
Yeah.
I feel like thankfully a lot of those have been torn down.
Mhm.
Uh,
Right, you almost even need friends to get there.
yeah.
Well, in Chapel Hill, did you have a strong like base and peer group?
Yeah, absolutely. I think because the community is smaller, it's
You're tighter
like,
knit.
yeah, exactly.
And did you miss that ever?
Totally. Yeah. And the thing I miss the most probably is the fact that there were like so many different bars right next to the theater, like
Mm,
all steps and steps within the theater.
mhm.
And like the hangs were so good. Like because every night you can go to a different bar with a completely different vibe. It wasn't just us standing at 4100 or birds every single night.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Cool, man. So, who's your coach?
For Messel was Josh Breckus.
George Brett. Oh, dude, love that guy.
Yeah.
All right. So, after that run, what's going through your head? What you doing next?
After that run, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I know what I need to work on. I know like what I need to do to get on Herald Night. I'm not good enough to get on Herald Night yet, but I like at least I have the game plan.
Mhm.
And so I was like, okay, let me focus on that.
And more workshops, more practice groups, working with Josh more as a coach, or finding other coaches that can help you, or
Um, I guess like I was doing like classes and workshops. My indie team kind of dissolved at that point. So I didn't really have like a consistent team. But just really just trying to get reps in for the next round of auditions, I guess.
and then 2019, and what happened then?
I got all the way to second call back. I
Mhm.
thought I did pretty good. After the second call back, a woman in my group walked up to me and was like, "Hey, I don't want to jinx it, but like, I think you should expect something. I thought you were so good." And then I didn't get anything. And it was like so devastating.
The person that said that to you, was that an improviser, someone in the committee? Was that a fellow auditioner?
It was a fellow auditioner, and she was like someone I respected. Like she
Oh,
had just been on mess hall, and like she was like, "Hey, I know I'm not supposed to say stuff like this. I don't want to put you in your head, but
mm.
yeah, that you did really good."
Well, I would say that's always a nice thing to hear. You know.
But it's not like because it's like setting you up so the fall is harder, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess, yeah. At the end of the day, you end up at the same place, which is disappointment. It's
Yeah.
a false, a starker fall from grace.
Yeah.
All right. And then yeah, it's kind of been a pretty nice upward trajectory from you up to this point,
Hmm.
and this being a yeah, big drop, or huge disappointment. How'd you feel about that?
Disappointed, but also it kind of like it was going into it. I'm like, okay, maybe I could get something, but I would need a little bit of luck. Like I think I was at a point where I was like, okay, if I were to get Harold Knight, it would be like 60% talent, 40% luck. And those are my odds going in. So it was like, okay, I'm disappointed, but I know like obviously there are people who deserve it more than me. And that was kind of my mentality coming out of it.
Mhm. And then you're just back at it again, more classes and stuff.
Yeah, I mean by now it's like fall 2019, just more classes and stuff, and then the pandemic is just right around the corner.
Yeah. Were you gearing up to do the mess hall auditions, or were you not aiming for mess hall again?
Oh no, I was.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean obviously that was a big bummer.
Yeah. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, the pandemic happened like the week before, the week of.
Yeah.
like right around the same time
Uh-huh.
for the mess hall halfway. What'd you call those? The halfway audition?
The spring audition.
The spring auditions. Yeah.
Oh, actually, and fall 2019, right after I didn't get after my second time auditioning and I didn't get anything, I went to China and taught improv. And that was kind of like a reset and like such a cathartic experience. I was
How long
like,
are you there for?
just like 2 weeks, but it was like
Okay.
doing like these day-long workshops, and it felt so good.
For sure. And then pandemic happened.
Yeah.
I feel like I know the rest, right? Then were you doing We before, or that's when you started We?
I was doing We before, like in Jake's apartment. And then
So Whistling Prince was a pre-pandemic team?
it was like I'd done a We workshop with Jorge in person, and then he was the person who put together the group text as soon as the pandemic hit to be a Zoom team. And so I think Whistling Prince got together maybe a couple weeks after pandemic.
And then you grew out your hair.
Wow, that's what.
That's right. Hey, we're going chronological order. That's not.
Yeah. The most significant thing that happened to me was I grew out my hair.
Yeah, you did Zoom improv, and then things reopened. And
yeah.
Back at the grind.
Absolutely.
So it is now 6 years into your UCB journey, and now you're on Harold. You're on Headbutt.
Yeah.
6 years have built to this. How does that feel?
I mean, really great, really cathartic. I mean, just overall a great feeling, and I love my team. Everyone's so nice. So
since you're someone that loves auditions, when they announced it and you're like, I'll sign up, my favorite team is how was it stepping into that room? So many people were so nervous, but how did you handle, and how'd you cope with that feeling?
I maybe this is like maniacal, but I loved it. I was nervous, but it's like also like the kind of nervousness that I love. I remember before the first round this year, I was like, I thought I was a little too calm. Like I woke up and I was like, I'm ready. I can't wait to get in there. And so I took a little bit of pre-workout to get myself jittery.
BCAAs or caffeine or NO?
It was beta alanine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It can make your skin a little pricklier.
Yeah, I have some.
Yeah, it's nice.
It is great. And sorry, not to get dorky. It's supposed to make your blood vessels open better so that you can handle more oxygen in your muscles.
Yeah, and your muscles get sore slower.
Yeah. And you have like one or two. People always say that you get like an extra rep or two.
Yeah, and when I took,
so you were out there getting an extra rep or two. You're doing a fourth beat, huh? A fourth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm like, initiation. Yeah, guys, I'm on pre-workout. Okay, I gotta get my reps in.
I got one more in me.
Yeah. No, but I genuinely needed that because I was like, I'm too zen and focused. I need to get a little like.
You have daytime, evening audition?
First one was evenings. Callback was daytime.
Okay. So yeah, like you probably had work, or you probably just did a thing that day, like went to the beach or went surfing.
I think my first round was on a holiday, some sort of holiday, so I didn't work. I remember that, and then the second round was on weekend.
Yeah, and then jumping on Franklin and doing it. How did that feel?
Good. I was doing like jams, the jam on Sundays, just to like.
I remember, you had told me about it, and you recommended me do it. And I will say that actually made a huge difference. I almost want to plug the jam for a second. But
the jam is great.
The jam's a chance to improvise at the Franklin stage. And previously, like you could never get on that Franklin stage. I had to take 401 and pay $450 to get on that Franklin stage. I only did one scene,
Right.
So to have that jam happen weekly, I think is so great. Because I only went to one. It was because you told me, and I went there. You saw how awesome I did. Just kidding. But like, that's where the nerves happened. It was that day, when
you got and did the jam.
Yeah, because that was like my first time on Franklin stage in years.
That's amazing. You want to get that out before you.
Literally my second time on Franklin stage. So like, it's a different feeling, like the lights and the audience and whatever. So definitely like, I'm glad that you had recommended me do that. And I recommend that for everybody, to get that, just the environment out of your head. There's so many other things going on right now.
Right.
The last thing you should worry about is just like, the greats perform here, right?
Yeah.
So you want to, if you can get as comfortable on that stage as possible, I guarantee you when you step on the day, because I did that like the weekend before, and then when I had my audition, I was like, okay, I'm not as scared on here because I crushed it at the jam. No, I'm just kidding. No. But like, I just I got it out of my system.
It's also, I don't know if you ever did the jam when it was at the Sanctum, but
I did. Yeah.
okay. What PJ, Joe, and Anna have done with the jam now is like,
Yes.
it's leaps and bounds better. It's genuinely fun now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I didn't like the jam before, but I definitely will say it didn't feel. It was just I think just the amount of people. I love that the jam is a popular thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think they also do a good job of like guarding people from any problematic stuff. So it is just like hopefully what people imagine jam should be like.
Yeah, and I think the benefit of like having the stage lights on maybe like makes people nervous and gets the people who would otherwise be steamrollers to like not be as steamrolly.
Because
That's
they
my
feel
theory.
seen. They're like,
Yeah,
everyone's gonna see me steamroll or not.
yeah, it's almost like you're on display.
Yeah. And how's the experience been? Now like 5 months in.
Really great. Love my team. Love the shine hasn't worn off yet. I still get very excited to go up there. Yeah, no complaints here.
Yeah, I love your team. You have a really solid team.
Thanks, man.
Great, cool. I'm glad you like your team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many great people.
Yeah, so many great people.
But Monday nights are like just fun again, you know.
Yeah.
Hopefully, and your team's all new people, right?
Yeah, all new people, which I'm very glad and grateful for. Like, very grateful that we're all getting to go through this experience together and that everyone's excited.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Anything else you want to talk about in your journey through improv?
I mean, I think that's pretty much it.
All right, awesome. Well, that has been Improvster Syndrome with Sam D. We got a chance to travel across his improv journey. Started in Mississippi, then North Carolina, and we ended here in LA. Let's go ahead and jump into our next segment now, which is going to be our topic of the week. Now, this is really interesting. This is a topic that I threw you some suggestions, but you suggested a really great topic that I think is good for both of us to talk about, which is LA improv versus small town improv. The two things we know best.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I guess first of all, yeah, like why did you feel so strongly about this?
So I mean, as I mentioned, I spent a couple years at this, small theater in North Carolina where I feel like I really kind of like broke my teeth in. Is that a saying? Cut my teeth?
Cut your teeth.
Cut my teeth. Yeah.
Oh, it comes so hard they broke.
Yeah, I cut them so hard they just shattered, and I'm so grateful for that. Being in LA though, I have met a lot of people who kind of like have like an LA UCB elitism. Like I've heard people say like it doesn't matter how many years of improv you do outside of LA or New York. It's like your improv journey starts at year 0 once you get to LA.
Ooh, I never heard that. That's a toxic thing to hear.
Yeah.
That's something that I've heard in other parts of LA. Like in entertainment, they're like, I don't care how many years you've been a writer or how many years you've been an actor, doesn't start until you work in LA. And to some point, like, I don't know that world as well as they do, but maybe they're right? I don't know. But obviously, no, they're wrong because at the end of the day, you bring your experience with you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was young when I heard that, and I always let that like fester in the back of my head.
Yeah, and it's like such an unhealthy idea to have like lurking around anywhere in your brain.
But the only one that does apply to is being an LA Lakers fan. You either it doesn't matter how long you've been a fan, and once you start cheering for them here in LA, that's when day one begins.
How about Clippers?
The real LA people will claim Clippers. How about that? Like if you were a Clippers fan in the 90s, you're true. But if you got them after Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, then you're not a real Clippers fan.
I think it's fair.
Yeah. Sorry, but to jump back in.
Yeah, and I just think that like I'm here to defend smaller market improv because I think reps are reps, and it's so useful and great to be able to get your sea legs wet and to get those bad reps out. Like I did so many bad heralds in North Carolina that by the time I got to LA, I was like, I know what a bad herald feels like, and I can like do it and like brush it off my shoulders.
Like you're not precious about it.
I'm not precious about it. I've also done maybe 1 or 2 good heralds or like good shows even, and like to come out here and have that kind of in your bones. Yeah.
I for the most part I agree with you. I may just take on the role of the the naysayer or the
Devil's advocate.
contrarian or the devil's advocate.
Please do.
Just so that there's some type of discourse. Because I mean, for the most part, I agree with you. One thing I will say before I jump into that devil's advocate mode is that like when I started doing improv, it was never to pursue comedy. It was never to pursue acting or performing. You know, I started doing improv because I needed help talking to people. I was working with clients and I was really nervous. So when I started doing it, I took it at this place where all the people were similarly like that. It's like, I'm a salesman. I gotta get, you know, want to be more loose. Or it's like, I'm 52. My last granddaughter just went to college and I don't know, I'm ready to have fun. Or it's, you know, my dad says I need to build some characters, so I'm here to take improv. My dad told me to take improv classes so that I can come out of my shell. So because of that, like, to me, that's always what improv is about. And those are the people I feel like I am the most tied to or most close to. Like, if there are people out here that like they're nervous as heck and they can barely get two words together and they jump on stage for the first time and then they say one thing, you know, and it doesn't, even if it's not funny or whatever, like I would cheer that person on, because to me, I think that's the spirit of improv.
Right, totally. It's like a big leap for them, and it takes so much more courage for them to do something like this.
Yeah. So in that sense, I will say, local improv rocks, because you're only gonna find people like that. I think those are the people that like need improv. I think improv needs them. Like, I think it's like a really good symbiotic relationship. That being said, now I'm gonna take off the happy positive hat. I'm going to put on the other hat, which is to say that that's like you mentioned before, like there's a very low ceiling. You are pretty much going to be capped at whoever runs the school or whoever runs the theater. You know, that's the one thing I will say against that is as much as I love it, as much as I love cutting my teeth in local improv, my first use, like I said, the first UCB show, I was like, what have I been doing? What have I been doing when this is the end goal, you know?
Yeah. I guess to that, I would say like I feel like it's a bit of a spectrum.
Yeah.
The theater I was at, like, it was started by a guy who was like on a Herald teams at, I think, like IO in Second City. And then there were people who were like, I'm a therapist who I want to like, and I want to be able to talk to my clients better.
Yeah.
But then there were a lot of like genuine comedy nerds. I remember I was on a weekend team with this woman who was on one of the original UCB Herald teams in New York with like Paul Scheer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And like she, you know, had a son with special needs and like moved back to North Carolina and, you know, had started doing like local theater there. So I think like there definitely were people who I was like, oh no, you're a performer and I can learn so much from you.
Yeah.
Coincidentally enough, I was in Mississippi a few months ago and I coached some improv there, and that is a much smaller scene. But there's still just like theater kids who like kind of want to stretch their legs and like try improv. So I think it's so like contextual and kind of depends on like what kind of weird melting pot of people do you have here?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're gonna again, coming from someone who watches all improv, good or bad, there's obviously something you can learn from everybody, because everybody's gonna bring. It's like sorry to always bring it back to bodybuilding, but you know that's Arnold thing, right?
The one where he talks about the pump and how good it feels.
Yeah, no, the one where he says, "I'm not the best. I don't have the best chest, the best arms, the best legs, but I train my arms with the people that have the best arms. I train my chest with the people with the best chest, so that way, I'm the best, well-rounded." I don't know which hat I'm wearing right now. But I want to say that, like, if you came out to do improv and you have fun, mission accomplished, baby. You know, I don't even know why I was talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger, because that guy's super competitive.
Yeah.
The thing that you were talking about like the hangs and going out to bars and everything like that, like some of my favorite improv memories and practices and hangs have been in Orange County doing those local scenes, because for there, again, this is not life or death. This is not high stakes. This is not whatever. Like, it's just like board game night, or it's just like going to see a movie together, you know? And it's just like, I miss that level of it, where it's like, we're here to play. Good set, bad set. We're here to play. We're having a giggle. We're having a good time, you know?
I will say there's like a wholesomeness and an enthusiasm that I think you're kind of alluding to both like North Carolina and Mississippi improv that I've noticed. And that is really infectious. And I kind of wish there was more of that in LA. I was in Mississippi, and like we were doing freeze tag, the short form game.
Yeah.
And like if you asked me to do freeze tag in LA, I'd roll my eyes and I'd be like, what the fuck are we doing, guys? We're here to do improv. But they were doing freeze tag and they loved it so much. And like I got in there and I was like, this is fun. I forgot how fun this is.
Yeah. Oh man. I love freeze tag too. I feel like that'd be a fun warm up. Gets you out of your head and into your body, maybe.
Totally.
And it's just like, yes, and the fuzz. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. I have a nostalgia for it, but like I also do know that like in today and where I am right now, it's tough. It's tough to. It's kind of like, yeah, it's like visiting your hometown. You know, when you first transitioned out here, how tough was that reconciliation of where you were and having fun to like LA? Because another thing that you spoke to is how tough it is to make friends out here.
Mm-hmm.
Was it equally hard in Chapel Hill?
No, it was way easier.
Yeah.
I think that was the toughest thing, like moving out to LA and like for maybe like 2 or 3 years, not really feeling like I had friends.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Chapel Hill of it all is like, it's such a small town. Such a small, like 100 to 200 people in this theater community. So really just like after every show, it's like, yeah, go to the bar, hang out, you know, and you know everyone. It feels like family almost.
Have you gone back there since?
I think I went back once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was that? Was it nice or?
I mean, the theater shut down like right
Sure.
after I moved to LA.
Oh.
Me Too stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that then. How dare local theater? No. Yeah, that must be tough. That means everybody, did they start a new theater after that?
They did, and I think like from the ashes, like they were trying to do it where it's like, oh, maybe we could pay our performers, but like that's so hard to do, even in LA where yeah. So I don't know how they're doing, but yeah.
Have you been paid yet?
Oh, I
got a check for $7 a few months ago.
Oh, I donated to the scholarship fund.
Oh,
yeah. Hey, leave that in the podcast, sir. Don't you dare cut that out.
I'm a jerk. I kept that $7 for myself. It's $7, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess
selfishly though, I guess for the record, it's like I knew it would be $7 and it's not worth it to like maybe screw up my taxes and get audited.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it were like,
am I gonna get taxed with the $7?
Well, because we filled out a W-2, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I never expected to make enough to where I would need to pay taxes on it.
Oh, okay.
In any case, I guess the point is, the reason why I brought it up, and I guess I will leave it in the podcast.
Thank you.
Is that I guess this to give a sense of realism of how hard it is to pay your performers. That at UCB, one of the, arguably one of the most successful comedy theaters, improv theaters, and then arguably one of the most busy, packed shows, right? Monday night. And I got $7.
Right.
And that's over the course of months. That's not for one show. That's like, I think for like Q2,
So that's like the sum of all your Lloyd nights plus like Glass Clown. Yeah.
And then I would I think they also, don't they split with they could, like, don't they make like the whole night cover, like they make like the expensive shows cover the house fees, something like that. I don't know, there's some math equation involved in it, but in any case, like it ain't survivable.
Do you think your performances, and I guess the average performances you could see at UCB, are worth the price of admission?
Yeah, because, and we're spoiled with it here in LA, but jumping back into local, going back to like local improv, I mentioned I see improv everywhere I go. I will travel. I used to travel for work, so I used to like see improv shows wherever I went. Even in Orange County, we were charging $5 a ticket. And other places I paid like $10, $15, $20 for a ticket. I can confidently say that like UCB you're getting more bang for your buck. Are you for a $5, $10 ticket? You kidding me?
But you're saying relative to something like Groundlings or
I guess it's the only thing I can compare it to is other improv. This is the best improv that you'll probably see, and this is probably the cheapest ticket you'll find it for.
That I agree with. the price to quality ratio.
Yeah.
But I guess price to quality ratio aside, the like, because sometimes I do a show and I'm like, oh, if anybody paid $10 to see that or $5 to see that,
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? And I
Yo.
think maybe 40% of the time I feel that way.
Yeah. Sorry. I think that's a different framing of the question. Do I think my shows are worth $5? Maybe not, right? I don't know. It depends on the night and depends on how I'm feeling, But like I will say, like I said, like in Orange County, I've made $5 for worse shows. Or rather, I've charged $5 for worse shows, And I guess if I'm not gonna have a guilty conscience about that, I'm pretty sure, right? Like you probably don't feel bad about charging people at Chapel Hill $5, do you?
No, but I think also like because that really is the only game in town.
Yeah.
That I feel like was a steal. Whereas like maybe part of it is like in LA, there are so many options to entertain yourself.
And let's be real too, buddy. You're $10, I'm $5. So technically you have to do twice as good as me for it to be worth it.
Oh gosh.
So it's a tough call.
Oh my God. I've got a Herald on Monday. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, keep that in mind. I was like, oh, I better double David's
double the amount of laps, the LPMs, laps per minute. The thing when I was talking about going back home and doing stand-up, the thing that I really like about doing stand-up in a place like Mississippi is that even if the people aren't laughing at your jokes, like you can see on their faces like how grateful they are to like hear you tell stories.
Yeah.
And they're so like happy just to listen to you. And I feel like part of that is because it's like the only game in town type thing, like for our Lloyd nights, for our Herald nights, it's like this is not new for anybody.
I see what you're saying.
But when I do stand up in Mississippi, everyone's like, it's like you can almost see their pupils dilating. And even if I don't crush, it feels like so good to know that like these people are listening.
Yeah, we kind of veered a little bit off the topic. Let's jump back into this. Let's talk about that. Yeah, that is something that is, again, part of that competitiveness of doing comedy out here. You kind of need to be more heightened because this is I wouldn't even necessarily say we're a savvier audience, but this is an audience that has seen it already.
I think even like beyond like the quality of the writing, it's the idea of like,
at least he's up on stage. At least he's saying something.
Yeah, like I'm here to experience an event. My phone is away. I'm like looking at you. I think like, I mean, how many times have you gone to a show where it's just like almost like work for you? Like I'm going to another comedy show. It's just another Wednesday, right? Whereas like in Mississippi, it's like this is like a once a month show. This is an event, know? And you can feel when the audience treats it as an event.
Sure. Yeah, like they planned for this. They got the babysitter. I just asked out this cute girl. I'm so excited. Gonna take her to an improv show.
Exactly. Yeah. That feeling, I think, in a smaller market is.
You don't think we had that out here? You don't think people are making time for Herald night or asking their date like, hey, listen,
no, look, I've taken plenty of dates to UCB. Okay, like I do, but it's like it's like when you do something over and over again, it starts to lose the magic.
But that's us. That's not the audience, though. So I think that audience, that magic might still be there. I'll be a little optimistic.
So in Mississippi, I can guarantee you, so like half the crowd that's watching me, this is their first time watching live stand-up, especially since it's a college town and a lot of them are 18, 19.
Oh, yeah.
So okay, there is this sort of like connectiveness that's just hard to describe.
And I think that's still here. I definitely, for sure, in Groundlings, they do ask that who's seeing improv for the first time. There's a lot of tourists. There's a lot of people that are seeing improv for the first time there. I think UCB used to definitely have that. I don't know if they have it anymore.
Right.
Or maybe they do, but like I know for a fact, like Largo has that. Like half of those people are also like not improv savvy. So I don't know. I think this might be just a temporary thing. Hopefully, like over time, we'll get that back. But I will say you get that almost entirely in the local scene. In Orange County, they're either brand new people that bought a ticket on Groupon or they're friends and family of the cast performing,
Yeah. I mean, tying it back to the price of tickets, when I was in China doing the improv stuff, I was talking to them about like, what is their indie culture like and what is the world like? And they were telling me they charge like $15, $20 US to do like for tickets for like an indie show in the back of a bar. And these are people who've like maybe just been doing improv for like 6 months or something. And like the guy's justification was like, well, historically China is like a very poor country. These people have only really had disposable income for like a pretty maybe like 30 years.
Mhm.
And so it's like the idea of going out on a Wednesday night and spending your money to do really anything has like a novelty to it, and they'd be
Sure.
willing to pay for it.
Yeah, I would probably think, being Chinese myself, I would say that that price barrier isn't there. I would also say maybe even culturally, like that almost even adds to it. It's like I'm not gonna go see a $5 show, but a $20 show I go see.
Oh, like
You know what I mean?
something that's more expensive inherently has more value, that type of
Yeah,
thing.
and I think also, I know for me, a lot for my family and the way that I think about making a purchase, whatever, it's just like, is this worth it on their end? So if I think about like, well, they practice, they have to rent out the space, or whatever. So at the end of the day, economically speaking, $20 is what the practical thing I would charge as well. So I'm going to pay that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And to make sure, oh yeah, no, yeah, because I've always done the math. I was like, man, Herald team is 8 people. So even if they charge $50 a ticket, everyone's only going to get,
Right.
$4 of my ticket price. Not to mention, I mean, that's not even counting the venue and all this stuff. So I'm like, yeah, it's really hard to pay out 8 people. So I think if I had that in mind, if I went to that, if improv was a new thing to me, I didn't know how the sausage was made,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in China and this is a brand new thing, I'd be like, they're making it up, and there's 8 of them, and they rented out this nice space. Yeah, $20 is a steal.
Yeah.
I actually even argued that that's how much. Like, you ever been to the Largo shows?
Yeah.
Where they're 35 plus $17 or like whatever service fee.
Mm-hmm.
So you're paying like $60. And I felt good about that. I've never been like, how dare they? I've always been like, yeah, I got $60 worth of,
But you're paying $60 to see like celebrities though, right?
Yeah, but that's what that kind of is. There's no improv celebrity in China. So there's just,
No, but these are literally people who like are like, this is like your mom doing improv.
I know, but she's doing something that like you've not seen people do before or whatever.
Yeah.
So for them, it is, look, there is no Paul Scheer over there. There is no Ben Schwartz in China. Right?
Yeah.
There is just, and if there was, I bet you they'd pay $100 to see, the Chinese Paul Scheer.
Well, stand-up is like way more popular in China right now than
Yeah.
improv because there's a cultural history for it, at least.
This is pretty interesting to me, that you did that. And first of all, are you fluent in Mandarin? Or are you teaching in English?
I was teaching in Mandarin, and then like every now and then I'd have to switch to English real quick.
Yeah. But so you knew enough to be able to teach.
I would say like 80 to 90% of the stuff I was saying was in Chinese. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you also have to do scene work in Chinese, right? So that means you have to know the word for like, hey, can we sit down? We have a heart to heart. You know how to say that in Chinese.
I wasn't improvising. I don't think my Chinese is fast enough to like get those words out.
But you had to hear it.
I can hear it. I can understand it, and I can be like, I probably didn't sound the most eloquent.
Sure, it was probably to have enough to be able to like understand, and then maybe like even catch some of the subtleties and some of the nuances in their performances. Demonstrates a lot of fluency.
I think the hardest thing was like the crazy thing about how like improv in Beijing and in China started is like one of the guys there, he was like, as far as I know, I'm the first guy to ever translate truth and comedy into Chinese. And he was like, the only reason I did it was because this acting person, like a buddy of mine, asked me to translate it. I did it, knew nothing about improv. And a few years later, I started doing improv, tried to retranslate it, and realized how bad of a translation I did. And then like they like, because so much of the work is translation and there's like so many different ways you can translate something, you don't really have the same vocabulary to talk about improv with your teammates. And so like so much of the workshops was like me trying to say something in Chinese, like trying to translate heightening into Chinese and saying like, what is your word for this? Like, here are the options for like translation. What feels most right to you guys? And kind of like building a vocabulary set with them.
Because they read truth and comedy, that means they may have a different, they must have a different now understanding or different interpretation of comedy, because traditionally a lot of Chinese comedy is like slapstick or pun or irony, but to be able to laugh at the awkwardness or, to discover a real moment that, and then like to set a tone and then have something unexpected happen. Did they have the similar sensibility for that, or was it different?
I think definitely like there's like a Chinese form of sketch called like xiaoping, which is very like Abbott and Costello, very like traditional. Even when people perform it today, they wear like traditional clothes while performing it. And there's like a sketch cadence. I feel like when you talk, there's like a sketchiness of it that they kind of brought to their improv.
Yeah.
And like personally, I think like, if that's what you're into, like culturally, do that. There's no like superiority over like grounded versus like not grounded. But it was cool because like I did like some like grounding exercises with them, like that park bench of truth exercise. I did that, and it kind of blew like some of their minds, and that was really cool because typically Chinese comedy doesn't skew towards that.
Yeah. They were probably just like all of us. We had the same realization where it's just like, wait, we were just talking about our weekend plans, and that was fun and interesting, and we didn't make any jokes. I didn't say fart once, and you guys were all engaged. Wow,
Right.
So that's interesting. That like that is, I would have thought that would have been more cultural, more regional, but it seems like that's something that can be like ported very well to different communities. Because one of the things I was gonna say too, just in terms of to tie it back to like LA versus local, I think a lot of what's the trends end up being is going to be based on like what the community is like. So, for instance, one time I went to Portland to go see an improv show, and that up there it was like watching an episode of Portlandia. It was just so like, and I mean that in the best way possible, but it was just like very random. It was like no game, but like everything was like, you take something familiar, hey, you and I, we're gonna go on a hike, and then and then they throw in like so many random things, and like, oh, now we're burying a body. It's like, oh, and it's kind of like that deep, like, oh, wait, I thought you guys were going on a regular hike. Turns out this hike is to bury a body, and then it was just like, like things would change so dramatically, tonally, and everything. You kind of get a little bit of whiplash, but I'm like, I think that this is the sensibility up here. I think people here are weird and kooky and fun, and like if you're a good teacher, if you're a good coach, you would feed that and nourish that, not like say, hey, no, stop, do it the way I know how to do whatever,
Right, exactly. Especially like if it is something that's like intercultural, it's like you don't want to like kind of have this like colonizer mindset of like the way that you guys laugh or the way that you guys think comedy should be done is wrong and you should do it like me. And it's hard to figure out like what is a note I should give versus like what is something that's like, no, this is just what they like.
Yeah. And you compare that to out here. I think that's why so many of the best improvisers, some of the strongest teachers, and the style out here is so performance based. And that's why you and I, like, we love This Show Is Not Funny. LA's full of actors and people that love film and love the dramatic arts. So when they see people doing that, they're like, I love it. But that's also why that character in clowning works so big here, because it's like you are really stepping up. You're taking your energy to a 10 or 11, which is like, this is what we're all here for, with the Jim Carreys and the Robin Williams. We love that you're bringing that out here, versus like, I know for a fact, like in Orange County, growing up there my whole life, like Borat's funny, so sometimes even just like the novelty of doing a accent, doesn't matter if it's good, doesn't matter if it's bad,
Sure.
but the novelty that you're doing it, or the novelty that you are, like, a lot of people in Orange County, like, they sacrifice their body, so they do a lot of like
physical pratfalls
and stuff.
Okay.
And it's just like, it's the fact that like you are committing that is to be really funny. And like out here, I don't know, again, different, just not even that far away, but like someone does a pratfall, we're always concerned, right? We're like, oh no,
right,
that person just skinned their boo-boo in their knee,
right, yeah.
So I think that like, as we kind of like, bring up this discussion of LA versus a small town or a small theater, I think it's tough. I think we shouldn't really think of it that way. I think it really should be like, just like LA versus Mississippi is different from Mississippi versus North Carolina is different from North Carolina versus Orange County versus Portland. I think the conclusion I've come to, maybe you feel the same way, like all improv and all comedy is going to be regional, or it's going to speak to the people of that community.
For sure. Yeah. And I think comedy, more than any other art form, is like has like ages the worst.
Yeah.
Like, not just from like a problematic perspective, but like if you go back in time and like watch stuff that's not problematic, I feel like it stops being funny so quickly because just like the times have changed.
Yeah. Biggest takeaway in the discussion is it's this is kind of a nice thing, like, just to do like, I don't know, I've been playing devil's advocate, playing negative Nancy, but I'll just say this, like, LA, we're very blessed. We're very lucky to be doing in LA. I think LA has, first of all, there's so many people doing it out here that, like I mentioned before, like other places, it's kind of really dictated by the one person running the scene and what they say goes. But there's no one person here. And then there's so many, schools now, so many different influential people. So you can really find the voice or find the style that you like. And then also, most people are transplants out here. So like how many teachers do we have that are like New York people, right? So they bring that to us. They bring different sensibilities and different styles to us. And the last thing is, how great is it that we also can influence outwards? You're going to Beijing. People are going to UNC. No, people are going to Chapel Hill. People are going to, Orange County from LA, right? And they're bringing that style across. So it is kind of this really nice give and take. And
with LA, it's like, how many scenes you see where it's like a guy walks in with a boom mic because it's LA, right? Whereas like, I don't know, like at anywhere else in the world, it's like you have people who are actual like doctors and like very worldly and traveled, and you see that in their scene work, and it's incredible.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There was a lot of family stuff where I came from because family values is so strong in Orange County,
right?
Versus here, no one has a fucking family.
Yeah. In Beijing, there was my classes, like I did a Chinese class and an English class, and the English class was all expats from around the world. And there's this guy from Nigeria who had never really been to America. He was from Nigeria, was going to grad school in China, spoke great English, and like just his scenes were so cool because it's like, oh, you have a completely different perspective on the world than I could ever have.
And how great was it for you to like experience that and now bring that with you?
Oh, insane.
Yeah.
Also crazy that he spoke English with an American accent, but he like really never been here.
Really?
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Probably got a lot from watching movies.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, great story and great way to wrap up this discussion on improv. And we'll change it. Now it's just, I guess, talking about regional improv in different regions. Rather than focusing on LA. All right, great. Let's go ahead and go to our last segment now, which is going to be
Hot Improv Takes.
So here's our chance to go on a rant on a trend that we've been seeing in the improv stages of LA. Either things that we love and we want to see more of, things we don't like and we want to see less of, or something that is like just right and we want to keep it like that. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I can go first.
Okay, sure.
Hot improv take. I wish people would stop trying to be so funny. Like, okay, we've been talking about how much we love dramatic improv, and I think sometimes like the scene isn't very funny, and like I just wish I could see people like lean into that more, because it's like, okay, this scene isn't funny, so like let's just kind of, maybe it's a dramatic scene, right? Or maybe it's just there's a huge laugh waiting, we just have to wait a little bit longer. But nothing takes me out of a show more than like when I can see the performers are trying to be funny.
Yeah. I know. I hear like what you're saying. Yeah, like the funny will happen. Trust the funny will happen. Trust that you'll be able to do funny stuff. And yeah, like it's so funny for LA, the city of actors and dreamers. Like there's so little emphasis on acting out here. I think that's so funny to me.
Yeah, and if the comedy doesn't happen, like something else will happen, and maybe that'll be more interesting.
Yeah. Great hot take. I completely agree with you. All right, I'll do mine now. Hot improv take. Don't do more than 2 shows a week. I guarantee you that no matter how great you are, even if you're getting paid for it, you shouldn't max out on performance. You should be maxing out on practices. So 2 is really all you need to, and it gives more emphasis. It gives more prestige. You look forward to it more. If you've got 4 shows in a week, I guarantee at least one of those you're gonna be phoning it in because you're gonna be thinking about those other 2 or 3 performances. This isn't like stand-up where the more reps, the better, because you're going to refine the same thing over again. This is much more like a sport or, physical exercise, where if you run 4 marathons in a week, guess what? You're going to be sore for half of them, right? So don't book that many. It's good that you're doing a lot of improv, do as much as you can get, but like spread them out so that you have about 2 a week. And don't like do 2 in one night. That's the worst. Have you ever done 2 improv shows in the same night?
Yeah.
I hate that. You feel bad and you have to leave the show early and everything like that to jump to it.
When I've done 2 shows in a night, it's always clear like which one is the tune-up warm-up show and which one is like it actually matters. Yeah. And that's the only reason I would ever do 2. It's just like I want to get a quick set in before I do my real set.
Yeah. And like my thing is just even from a practical standpoint, I'm a big practice person.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing 3 shows a week, that means are you doing like practice the other 3 nights? I doubt it.
Mm-hmm.
So when that ratio changes to like more shows and practices, I think we have a problem.
Do you think that applies to people of all levels though?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, obviously, you will get to a point where your performance is your rep. You get what I'm saying? Like someone that I really look up to is Jason Manzukis. Do I think he's practicing? No. But when he does a show, does he do a good job? Hell yeah, he does, right?
Yeah.
But I would argue that he's probably of a level, he's been doing it so long that when he does a performance rep, he will think about it. He'll kind of like note himself,
Right.
and he'll be like, that was the practice, and he'll bring it to him next time. But I would also say that sometimes they can be rusty, If you don't practice and you haven't done improv in a month and all of a sudden you do a show, you might be a little rusty. So I'm pretty sure. Obviously, this is a learning experience, and everyone's gonna have their own balance. And some people maybe that number is arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, like, dude, 1 show a week's too much. You can only do once a month. Or some people are like, oh boy, I feel like I could do 7 a week, but 8 a week, that's too much. But I'm pretty gonna hit that level. But eventually, you do need to find that balance. You do need to. Everyone burns out. I think everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're listening, you haven't burned out yet. Keep pushing. Eventually, you're gonna burn out.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, this is too much improv. But I will say, maybe this is more of a personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think 3 is the max you should shoot for.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you can also get by with 1. The idea though is that you are also practicing in between or with those sets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if I didn't have a day job, I might be doing classes in the morning and then a show every single night, and maybe that is a good balance. But I just think the balance shouldn't tip over to more performances than practices.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. All right. That has been our hot improv takes with Sam. Let's go ahead and wrap it up now. It's getting pretty late. The lamps are on. So go ahead and give us your plugs.
Be sure to catch me on Herald Night with Headbutt Monday nights at UCB. And then be sure to look out for the next White Lotus show with Whistling Prince, also at UCB, or catch us Friday nights at We Improv on the 4th Friday of every month. No, the 3rd Friday. 3rd Friday of every month.
That's upstairs?
I think it's downstairs.
And that's 2nd or 4th?
4th Friday. We Improv 4th Friday of every month. I have a Google Calendar that has all of this. Great. Ask to get added to my Google Calendar if you really want to see me.
Yeah. Drop your social and then they can hit you up for Google Calendar.
You can follow me on Instagram at SamLDI.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks so much for stopping by, Sam. It was great hearing about your journey. Much more traveling than I thought it would be. Most people's journey is like 2 cities, but it was great. We got to travel around the world with Sam D and his improv journey.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody.